and welcome to Media Lit, where we treat each piece of media like great literature. I am your host, Randy Elaine, and joining me, as always, is the amazing podcast man himself, Chris Ingersoll. Chris, we get to talk some Marvel tonight. How are you doing?
So good, buddy. I am your friendly neighborhood podcaster. But that's not really what we're here to talk about tonight. Different Marvel property, even if I'm still wicked excited about the most recent Spider-Man film. But you're fresh back from a lengthy vacation. This brave man took a long road trip, not to be denied when a flight was canceled. He said, we're driving to Disney. Family, get in the car.
Yep.
And so I'm just grateful to be back with you tonight, to feel some of your energy. I've missed it. We haven't potted since before you left. So yeah, really excited to do this now.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chris. Yeah, we realized off mic just before the podcast that we haven't even touched base about Spider-Man yet. We both loved Brand New Day, along with like every moviegoer in America, apparently, and globally, I should add. So yeah, feeling great about Marvel right now. It makes it extra exciting to chat X-Men tonight. But Chris, we couldn't do it alone.
We could never do it alone. No, in fact, really excited to be throwing it way back. Not only this is a returning friend of the pod, a familiar face and voice to any podling worth their salt. But this episode, talking about X-Men 97 Season 2, is a chance to throw it way back to Season 1 in one of our earliest conversations on the pod together when we talked about X-Men 97 Season 1. And for that conversation, of course, we had our resident doctor, the lost expert and new father, Dr. John Aspler. And we had to have him back to repeat for Season 2. John Aspler, welcome back to Media Lit.
Thank you both so much for having me again. I'm delighted to be here. Like I said before the pod, I clearly missed the graphic tee memo, but I've got my X-Men omnibus behind me, so at least I'm prepared in terms of props.
You got a collar on for anybody listening, not watching. I don't want my doctor to walk in a graphic tee. I think I appreciate Dr. John arriving a little bit more polished than us two knuckleheads.
By the way, John, on this road trip that we took to Florida and back, we spotted 49 of 50 state license plates. Hawaii continues to elude us. We've found it in past years, but not yet this summer. But for
Alaska, but not Hawaii.
Correct, yes. But for the first time, we found every single Canadian province as well.
Really?
Whoa.
Yeah.
I would have assumed Quebec, maybe Ontario, but everyone. That's wild.
Even the Western ones. Some of these we had never seen before. So it's
Cool.
pretty exciting. Yeah, so there you go. This is the kind of stuff that excites me and my family. You can tell I'm the kind of guy who would have a podcast from this conversation, can't you?
You guys covered a lot of highway. And as I said before, it was a brave undertaking with the family. You deserve the reward of all Canadian provinces on those licenses.
Exactly.
Thank you. But I guess we're not here to talk about license plates, right? We are here for... I mean, I'll change over to a license plate podcast if you guys want. I'll get my son back in here. He's the true expert. Yes, no,
I'm sure Ben
so.
could wow us, as long as we can also include state mottos in the conversation, which are sometimes included on the license plate, then I think we can have a really vibrant chat.
All right. Maybe I'll table it because we've got John here. Also, shout out to beloved Blake Coleman, gone but not forgotten. We will have you back soon, sir. We're sorry we could not make it happen for this particular pod.
So glad you called him out. Now that we're on mic talking about Blake, we missed him here tonight because he's extremely busy.
Yeah.
He's extremely busy looking after his 2-day-old, newly born second son.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay, fair. Understandable.
Coleman, welcome to the world.
Congratulations.
10 pounds, 6 ounces, big boy. So Blake has got his hands full.
Yeah, and frankly, his priority is properly in line. So
yeah, I'd pick him off the pod if he tried to sign on.
Perfect. All right, I think it's time for me to hit you with a little synopsis of Season 2. So here we go. At the start of Season 2, the X-Men find themselves scattered across time. In the future, Jean and Scott attempt to connect with their son, Nathan. In the past, Magneto sacrifices himself to clean up the fallout from his failed attempt to reshape Apocalypse in a new image. In the present, several X-themed factions fill the power vacuum left behind by our core team. Charles Xavier faces his own shortcomings. Polaris reckons with the legacy of her late father, Magneto, and Cable holds nothing back as he seeks to fulfill his destiny and stop the end of days. Meanwhile, Gambit rises from death as a dark vessel for Apocalypse that can only be stopped through extreme acts of sacrifice, love, and faith. X-Men 97, Season 2.
Well done, buddy.
Whew.
Yes, very well done. It's not easy to summarize a whole season of television, but you always manage to do it impressively.
Thank you.
We'll dig into the themes you touched on a little bit more, so I don't want to say too much. John, anything though from that recap you want to touch on, celebrate, or poke a huge hole in?
Yeah.
I mean, there's the problem, the joy of X-Men 97 is how much stuff is in such little space and time. So I could absolutely spend another 30 minutes recapping maybe another half of the season, but I think Randy did a wonderful job. Absolutely.
Well said.
Thank you.
Well said.
Thank you.
For all the podlings at home, you know that we love to discuss the way we relate to media, especially our personal connections to legacy stuff like this, the nostalgia stuff. But we've been there, done that with John, Randy, and myself. So if you are interested in our personal connections with the X-Men, our history with the original cartoon, the comic books, or the like, go back into the Media Lit archives and check out our Season 1 coverage for those personal connections. But tonight, I'm really excited to focus on Season 2. So guys, tell me, before we dig into any specifics that we loved, at a high level, overarching thoughts, what did you think of Season 2? Dr. John, honored guest, please take it away.
All right. Yes. Thank you so much for starting with me. So I think, as you both know, Season 1 of X-Men 97 was something really special, was something that may have been one of my favorite seasons of television of all time. It really spoke to me. It felt really urgent politically. It was very moving and meaningful, and it did a lot of things. And unironically, I would have recommended it to people who do not watch, do not care for animation, superheroes, cartoons. I really thought that it was something that would work for everyone and was really wonderful, even with some of the weirdness and comic bookiness of some of the episodes. And so with that in mind, I don't think Season 2 was ever going to live up to that hype. It is still a great season of television. I enjoyed it. I don't think it was as politically urgent. My favorite part of the X-Men, the thing that makes the X-Men, for me, special as a group of heroes, is their ability to engage with serious social and political commentary, and also incredibly messy, timey-wimey interpersonal drama, and the way they fuse those kinds of storytelling, that kind of storytelling together. So there were many moments in this season that I loved, that I felt really reflected those themes. A lot of the Jubilee episode 2 with X Factor, X-Force really spoke to me. And we'll certainly talk about plenty more things later. But I also just don't feel like, even knowing Season 2 was going to hit the Season 1 highs, even knowing Season 2 wasn't going to hit the Season 1 highs, it just didn't quite speak to me in the same way in terms of that social commentary. And for me, I guess the last thing I'll say is I felt that Apocalypse as a villain felt kind of flat. I didn't really feel the apocalypse of it all. So not to start us off on that note, but passing it back over to you guys.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate the honesty. And I'm glad you didn't feel like you had to come here and like overly celebrate a thing that you just liked well enough. That's totally cool. And we'll dig more into that. But Randy, what do you think, buddy?
Yeah, I'd say I feel similarly to John. I would agree with him that it's easy to say Season 1 is the superior season. I don't think too many people are going to question that. It was a special experience. That being said, it was so good. I think I was able to settle into just a frame of mind where I was excited to enjoy this thing. I was hoping to get some of those same highs. I did not necessarily need them. I was super invested in the Gambit cliffhanger from Season 1, so I was happy to sit and wait on that, and I was happy to have fun with it when it came around. I think the specific critique John throws out there that's most intriguing to me, I hadn't framed it this way, is I think you may be right that Apocalypse falls flat a bit as a villain. you came to us, John, with so much great context for why Magneto spoke to you. The chaos and conflict surrounding that character in season 1 was really what propelled that entire season, and certainly that legacy is still very relevant in season 2, though not as centered. But yeah, Apocalypse has never super worked for me. It's hard to do a character like that right. The the live action Apocalypse really fell flat for me. And I mean, yeah, the character designs never super worked for me. He's supposed to be all powerful, yet he needs a giant belt buckle to announce that he is Apocalypse. Always seemed a little bit lame to me.
Very Hester
Um,
Prynne.
yeah. But yeah, ultimately, at the end of the day, I was thrilled for this series. I'll be thrilled for season 3. And even with some small flaws, this is so much better than so much of the television that's out there right now. So happy we're living with the series. Maybe my only other observation is I do wonder how much of this was the natural order of things. And I also still wonder how much of this ties back to the behind the scenes messiness with Bo DeMeo, who clearly brought a lot of creative energy to this process that made this a great property. But while we still have not had a lot of light shed on all the details, it seems as if he was probably let go for the right reasons, from what I have garnered. But yeah, it is a question we're always going to have. Was there a Bo DeMeo version that might have had a little bit more energy? But if we're making our decisions for the right human reasons, that speaks to me, and I'm happy we are where we are.
Yeah. Understood. So maybe a little bit higher on it overall than John, but still not wowed the same way as season 1.
Sure.
Fair enough. Well, Podlings, you've got 2 podcasters here tonight who were like mostly okay in the season to like it. And you have a third who also was mostly just okay and did still really enjoy himself. I really enjoyed myself.
Yeah.
To your point, Randy, the animation is still tremendous. Like the comic book action we get to enjoy is just chef's kiss. It's still bringing me right back to the kind of, it doesn't port me back to being a child specifically, but it taps into what, even as a child, I appreciated about this, right? That it can be such an imaginative thing brought to so much life that doesn't just have to live on the page, that the magic can be vibrant and moving and engaging in a totally different way. It has all that. It definitely doesn't have, to John's point, the heft to the story that season 1 had, either in the interpersonal stories or in the overarching sort of conflict of it all. And I agree with John and you, Randy, that really boils down to the villain. I would have been okay with it not being quite as weighty. It's a lot to ask of a show season over season, especially when they're trying to still make it for like some middling audience. It can't just be targeted at like deep thinking elder millennials. So it's not so much that I hold against it. It is the villain. I don't think Apocalypse ever really had any substance. It felt like this season was mostly interested with throwing lots of iconic imagery at us. We did sort of summarized versions or abridged versions of a number of iconic comic book storylines and moments in this season, rather than just adapting one over the course of the whole season. Days of Future Past could have been the whole season, not just the first episode or so, right? And while that creates, I think, for the comic book fan, for the X-Men lore fan, just smorgasbord of deliciousness to dig into. So much to feast your eyes on in any given episode. From a pure story perspective, it ends up leaving everything just a little bit superficial. Even Remy, which I was, to your point, Randy, happy to be patient. I do think I was interested and I had fun with what they chose to do there. It still all came and went pretty quickly. And didn't really spend the time to let us sit with and resonate with the reckoning of this person coming back to life and trying to woo Rogue back to him, even as he's in this gray state. We didn't really wrestle with the difficulty and the nuance of any of that. It all came and went pretty quickly. And lastly, despite again enjoying the season overall, still really enjoying the action we got. The individual character beats still really worked for me. There's a number of, I don't want to give away any future conversation beats here, but a lot of mini arcs, character moments that really resonated with me. Ultimately, one of the reasons Apocalypse failed as a villain was because of his character design. It's not just the belt, Randy.
Yeah.
It's that stupid face.
Yeah.
It's that stupid face. I don't know.
It really is.
When Remy goes full Apocalypse in the end, and
that was the worst thing. Yep.
The painted on grin he's the ghastly grinner / the Joker / Apocalypse when he's En Sabinor. Like, that worked. When you still get the long hair, he's young, pre-Apocalypse, like the design on his face, like that is part of his sort of like the presentation of his mutation really worked. That character design, dope. I would love that action figure.
Yep.
Not so much Celestial imbued Apocalypse.
And they even show the face transform into the face. And my first thought was, no, that first one was the better one. You should have stuck with, like, built on that, not just turned into the sort of iconic, but like kind of silly Apocalypse face. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, as we're having this chat, I'm just thinking how cool it would have been if maybe like at the end of episode 2 with X-Force and X-Factor, maybe that was when we got the Remy reveal. And we didn't get full confirmation that he was in fact Apocalypse and not just a horseman until maybe the end of the season. It might have been really fun to wrestle with it in that way.
Yeah, little hints of Apocalypse kind of coming about and us suspecting there's more to what's happening here than what we first thought. Yeah.
But, and, Chris, I don't want to, spend too much time here, but I do think that the point you make about the pacing and Randy, the idea of opportunities for moments of foreshadowing and building up instead of just sudden hits. Apocalypse as a villain falls flat, but one of the reasons why season 1 works so well is that Magneto as a villain and a hero and a challenging character worked so well.
Yeah.
And then they killed him in episode 3 or 4 or whatever it was. And then they have one episode of opportunity for reflection on his legacy, but it's only even like a small amount within the context of the X-Men.
Yeah.
And that's it. I don't even think they say Magneto's name for the rest of the season. That is an astonishingly strange decision to me. I'm sure it's going to lead to some season 3 stuff, but it just meant that what the juice of season 1, so much of the Magneto context was just, it was all gone.
Yeah.
It
was almost like he changed and grew and arced out, and the world was then just with him. They were done.
Exactly right.
Yeah, Polaris needed a couple episodes, but then she was good too. Yeah.
Well,
very cool, by the way. To be fair,
yes,
so much. Just like, after this, folks, if you're listening and you're like, "What the heck? I thought we were going to be celebrating the X-Men tonight." We are. We are. As we actually talk about it, I think you'll find there's tons of cool stuff that we all loved in this. So let's turn in that direction now. Before we get into the meat of this episode, let's each of us pick like one thing from this season, a storytelling choice that gave the season some real life for us, something that helped it to work rather than detracting from it. Randy, we'll go back to you first in this one.
All right, I've got a few options here. I'm going to go with more of like a thematic storytelling choice. We've just been talking about how not all the beats really made it all the way through the season consistently, and I do think that's true. But there are a couple of sort of like key topics or questions that we kept coming back to that I was really engaged with. And this question of, can, one mutant stand in for all of mutant kind, or should one mutant have to stand in to speak for all of mutant kind, is something they were really playing with quite a bit, right? Like, at moments they were really like hammering it in, like in a finale, Valerie Cooper says she's not defying mutant kind, she's defying Charles Xavier, just this one man. In the trial episode with Nightcrawler trying to pull out some sort of empathy for Graydon Creed, right? He's trying to convince him that he doesn't really hate mutants. It's this abuse he suffered at the hands of his parents, that it's a projection. This sort of just falsely placed energy. But we also see it alive in other ways, right? We've got a great, across 2 seasons, real great, just sort of like character revival for Jubilee. She's got this very like young, optimistic sort of take on like the most optimistic version of Charles' vision. right? She isn't going to let even one single person suffer, or else the dream is going to die. And she is still, able to commit to that. She has not yet been fully jaded. And it was so fun to get that influx of energy. Even as we get back to the finale again with the Celestial, Isan, uh, arguing that life only advances at the expense of other lives, not through mercy, but through struggle. And even this question of one mutant, one being's faith being a source of power and growth, being a philosophical concept that the Celestial was willing to play ball with, I thought was a fun reflection of the good and the bad of that, but also how it can twist you, right? Like we see how twisted Charles has become by his own message and his need for control. He's grappling with that throughout the season. So yeah, this question of how difficult it is to put that strain and pressure on one person to speak for all of mutant kinds, but also the power of one person, one life, one decision, and how that can lead to growth. I thought that was some rich material that was always present.
Love that. Yeah, absolutely. And I do think they explore that from a few different angles, right? There were different ways into that theme, and it's definitely laced throughout the season. Yeah, really interesting. I like that you keyed in on what's the government woman's name again?
Val Cooper.
Yeah, Charles Xavier. This isn't about mutant kind, it's about Charles Xavier declaring war on him alone.
Did you guys crack up when they added X Corp to the list of X factions? Because I chuckled out loud at that point.
Yeah.
Especially because I'm not really a comics reader, so like all these new names are like brand new to me most of the time.
The idea that there's been
but it was
so
in a
much
fun way.
there hasn't just been like corporate synergy. There's been global brand synergy around all things mutant, seemingly for all time. Who was Apocalypse's girlfriend that betrayed him? The
External, I think, or something like that.
It's something similar. It's a play on that. It's not external. It's something like, but it's the X something or other. Very synergistic branding across the globe for all mutant kind. Really good. John, what about you? What kind of threads do you want to pull on here?
So I wasn't totally sure whether to talk about one specific episode or a relationship dynamic, because my favorite thing about this season was probably Nightcrawler. And I want to say everything Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler for me has always been the heart of any version of the X-Men team that he is a part of. He is this really compelling character who he's so visibly non-human, and yet he might be the best of humanity and have the best of humanity in him. His grace, his kindness, his love for his friends, for the people he hates, for the people he hopes to redeem. He's such a compelling character. And so episode 7, I think it's called Strange Land, Savage Heart, easily my favorite episode of the season. It's the episode with the trial of Graydon Creed, his half-brother, who is a human and also a far-right demagogue, an anti-mutant demagogue. And
what a bummer,
man. what a family. Like Sabretooth, Mystique, Rogue is an adoptive daughter, Nightcrawler, Graydon Creed, just what a lot of stuff going on there. Magneto is kind of an adoptive father to Rogue, but we don't have to touch that right now. Just very, very messy stuff. But the Nightcrawler of it all, my favorite moment in that episode is that throughout this trial, he's asked for Colossus to be the judge. His friend Colossus, who has been radicalized by the loss of his sister Magic, Ilyana, during the genocide in Genosha last season. And he has joined this radical group, the Acolytes. And so, Nightcrawler is not only trying to save his brother, but he's also trying to save his friend Colossus from this sort of path he's gone down. And at the very end of the episode, of course, the trial doesn't go through. It's short-circuited through a variety of fights and things that happen. And at the very end of the episode, Nightcrawler basically turns to Colossus and says, did I make my case? Did I convince you? And Colossus's answer, no, you did not convince me, but you would have convinced Ilyana. That broke my heart, but also was just, Colossus is with the X-Men now. He's good friends with Nightcrawler. He still has this pain with him, but, he's come back. He's come back home. So I love that relationship between Nightcrawler and Colossus, and I just like everything Nightcrawler does.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful, John Aspler.
I love that you pulled out those shades, John. I just wanted to share one quick note I had on that episode. That exact moment you talk about Colossus saying, you didn't convince me, what I love about it, though, is he never gets to deliver his verdict, because I think Nightcrawler convinced Exodus, and I think he was so, like, short-circuited by cognitive dissonance
Yes.
that he just lost his shit, 'cause
I love
Nightcrawler's
that.
that good.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'll just jump right in because this
Mm.
Nightcrawler is the thread that I wanted to pull on, and I'm not
Yeah.
gonna pivot for the sake of content. I really think
No.
that despite this season feeling mostly disjointed and not feeling like there was a lot tying it together, there was this arc for Nightcrawler all throughout, which ultimately culminates in the finale with
Yeah.
his sacrifice. He is like Charles Xavier boiled down to the most pure version of the message that just like all life is sacred. He doesn't sit there and advocate for Creed because it's his brother or his half brother.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I get it, but I could never. It's my blood, right? It's not that. That's very human. The worst of us can look after our family, can want what's right for the people we love. For Nightcrawler, it is so much higher and purer than that. It could be, to your point, John, his worst enemy. And Creed might be one of his worst enemies, at least in a philosophical sense, right? But all life is sacred. And it's not just the life of Creed that he's saving. To your point, John, it's his friend Colossus. And so often that's what forgiveness and grace is about. It's not about the people we're forgiving or showing grace to. It's about the healing power within ourselves.
Yeah.
That grace and forgiveness brings. The healing power in a community that grace and forgiveness brings. And Nightcrawler embodies that throughout this season, to the point where then he's able to make this one ultimate sacrifice. Obviously, the Christ imagery is extremely potent. He's literally wearing his priestly collar, his vestments throughout the season. No matter his look, he's always got the priestly vestments. And when Eson asks him, like, why do you think why are you so sure this one life will bring so much life?
Yeah.
He's like, not sure, man. I just have faith.
Yeah.
Woo! That's good. That got me really, really good. As a deconstructed Christ follower who doesn't want any of the dogma or the religion or the ritual or the nonsense and the rules, just wants the purity of the message that we can heal each other when we give the most of ourselves over, when we in our lives are not more valuable than any one other. We can transcend humanity and become something much, much greater. So yeah, it was Nightcrawler for me. And within all that is the fact they let him be an unadulterated badass for just a little while. When he was turned and he was under Remy's thrall, he One Pieces the X-Men. Ultimately, they're able to get
all of them.
All of them real quick. Lucky he's been holding back enemies because Nightcrawler is that guy.
Can I share wisdom from the mouths of a child?
Oh, please.
The mouths this child actually only has one mouth.
The mouths,
by the way. But I digress. No, I've been watching X-Men 97, and my youngest son doesn't watch with me, but occasionally he's nearby when I'm watching. I think he's been drawn into those iconic opening credits, and he'll occasionally point out things that he noticed. He saw a Beast on the screen. He's like, I know that guy's name. He's the Beast.
Nice.
From the opening credits. And he's been asking me a lot about storytelling and, good guys and bad guys. And I've been having a lot of conversations with him lately about how sometimes it's more complicated than that, right? We talked about my Disney trip. We went on the Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind ride. So he was asking me a lot of questions about Rocket Raccoon. And I was trying to say, they're heroes, but there are 3 movies. And in the first one, they kind of have to learn how to be heroes. And this is just all to say, he was kind of asking me who's the good guy here? Are they good guys? Are they bad guys? He saw Nightcrawler. And I was like, he's an easy one. He is the most good guy you could have. And he didn't disagree with me. He was like, oh yeah, because he kind of looks like a bad guy. Right. And that's, a 7-year-old perspective, but that's the core of what makes the character work. There are the mutants who can pass as human beings and the mutants who cannot. And Nightcrawler falls into that latter category and still finds this strength within himself. Even in that moment where he's got his tail wrapped around Graydon's neck, and there's a little piece of him that wants to break, he still falls back on that faith you just spoke to so well, Chris. You cannot conceive, nor can I, the appalling strangeness of the mercy of God. Damn, this guy's quotable.
It's really good. I love that appalling strangeness, right? Because it is an offense to some people, right? Especially if you've been seriously wronged. How could you possibly forgive?
Yeah.
Right? And it's not about making it seem like it always wins out. The fact is he dies in the end, right? There's no like guarantee that living this way is the safe way. No, this is the unsafe way to live. And he proves it.
Perfect. Whew. Well, guys, we each got a chance to unpack one of our favorite beats from season 2. But I think one thing that's very clear is the three of us are all very interested in this series as a whole. We all spoke to preferring season 1 to season 2, but we all quite enjoyed season 2 as well. The last time we all gathered together, we played a really fun game. We did a little mini draft. We filled the Summers family car with our own X family. It was a good time. And I wanted to play a game again. But this season was a lot more bleak than season 1, which feels weird to say because it's not like the plot lines of season 1 were good times. But we also had sports cars flying through the air and stuff like that. But I wanted a different experience. Like, how can we draft these characters and get a different perspective than what we got before? And I thought, let's mix up the format because there is one form of draft that we have not yet attempted here on Media Lit, and we've attempted a lot of different kinds of drafts. But what I would like to do today is I'm going to lean into a format, which was popularized by the Screen Drafts podcast. I am adapting a format that they've really mastered and giving it a try for the first time. But we're going to do our very first cooperative draft here tonight. So the goal is the three of us are going to work together to try to create the best possible definitive list of the best X-Men from X-Men 97. Who are the best mutants? Now, I say best. That could mean a lot of different things. We could be talking power sets. We could be talking one-liners. We could be talking best fits. All these things could factor in. But this is Media Lit. We've got the good doctor in the house here tonight. We are going to pick the characters who have been most essential to bringing the complex storytelling to life across 2 seasons of this show. The way this is going to work is while we are each going to get 4 picks in this draft, we're not doing a fantasy football style draft. We're not competing with each other to build the best team. We are going to start with number 12 on the list and work our way down to our top pick, the number 1 overall. Along the way, each of us has 1 veto. We are not compelled to use the veto, but we're allowed to use the veto. And we might use that for a couple of different reasons. One reason, maybe, someone tries to draft a character in spot 12 that we don't think belongs in the top 12. We might veto for that reason. Another reason we might veto is a character who belongs much closer to the top is drafted a bit too deep down the list, and you refuse to see that happen. So you will exercise your veto power to try to kick that person up the list a little bit more. If your pick gets vetoed, you are allowed to try it again the next time you're on the clock. But if there are any vetoes still on the table, you could be vetoed again. The person that vetoed you might pick that character later on. Maybe it's just someone they really want to talk about. But the goal is there are no winners or losers here. It's going to hopefully prompt us to have a really great conversation and get to the bottom of where, when, and how the storytelling has best worked across 2 seasons. Gentlemen, do you have any questions for me or any other clarifications about the rules that you think might be helpful to our listeners?
No, sir. As ever, you are the game's master. You make everything sound simple.
All right. Well, we are, despite the fact that we're not competing, we are going to use a snake-style format here for our draft picks, just to give us a chance to pick in a variety of places on the list. That's the goal. Um, we just had a gentlemanly conversation. We offered Dr. John a chance to pick his draft position first. We're going to hear from him third, but that means he will get to make the final pick in the draft. So as long as none of us veto him at number 1, he's going to likely have his way at the top of that list. But we'll see what happens. There are so many things that could happen. Along the way, we'll certainly share our fears and anxieties. If we're debating a veto, we might talk about why we did or did not use it. And I just can't wait to hear what these guys think and to see if we are as closely aligned as I think we might be. I'm sure there will be some surprises. I'm sure there are some contributions that we valued slightly differently, or stories that are echoing in our brain more loudly than others. So let's do this. I've got to kick off this process with the 12th pick overall. Who belongs in the 12th spot on this list? The first quarter of my list was pretty easy, but after that, everything else was tough. I was shuffling people around like crazy. Trying to figure out where to cut this list off was deeply painful for me. But the character that I landed on at number 12, in terms of both how much I like them and how much time and space they've been given to impact the larger story, I'm going to put Storm in this position. I think we especially saw some great stuff from Storm in season 1, really stepping up as a leader and confidant on the team, getting a peek into her emotional life through her romance with Forge, dealing with some time without her powers. A bit more sidelined in season 2, but still coming in as a total badass, capable of, destroying jets while saving the human pilots inside. A badass ex-person, a great character, and someone I hope we spend more time with in season 3. Would anyone like to exercise their veto at this time?
It's too early for that. I definitely, I personally had her higher, but I support this choice. Overall, I think I can co-sign this as your fellow GM.
Yeah, I had her a little higher. I think it might have been 9 or something, but I don't feel strongly about it. And honestly, I think I put her at 9 just because I love the character of Storm.
Mm.
And I don't know that she's been well served in X-Men 97. One of my least favorite plots in season 1 was her romance with Forge. I loved everything leading up to her losing her powers.
Right.
But then I felt it was very rushed, this sort of like internal conflict to get her powers back. It just didn't work as well for me as a lot of the other very interior stories. And then, yeah, she did literally nothing this season. I can't think of a single plot point, character beat she had that wasn't just like a supporting line or maybe using her powers. So unfortunately, with that second season, for me, it's got to be 12. So I didn't want to put her there. I'm happy you did.
Yeah, exactly right.
It was tough. It's painful to put such a great character there. But that being said, Chris, you've got the 11th pick. Who are you going to go to next?
This is, I hope that this character gets treated well as we move forward in the live action X-Men universe. The summer storyline within the 2 seasons is not the most compelling thing to me. I found myself almost a little annoyed every time we had to go back and make space for their family drama that ultimately, I don't know, it didn't feel like it was impacting enough people besides them for me to really care. So I have Cyclops here at this 11 spot. Like of that trio, he's the one that I am like least moved by story-wise. Sorry. Any vetoes to this?
John, you looked really pained. Can you
Yes.
articulate what you're thinking? It may not be a veto, but
Yeah.
what's going through your minds?
So definitely can't use a veto this early. Absolutely not. I had Cyclops at number 5, way, way higher. Cyclops is, I think I probably told this story last time, but when I was a kid and everyone wanted to play X-Men, everyone wanted to be Wolverine. And I was like, well, that's fine. I want to be Cyclops. He's a little bit of a Boy Scout, but he's also just got like such a depth of passion and feeling. And, it literally explodes out of his eyes sometimes when he can't contain it. He's such an interesting and brooding character, but he's not just a brooding character. And maybe it's because I'm a new dad. Maybe it's because when the first season aired, I was going to be a dad very, very soon after that. But of course, his like angst and the horrific nature of what happens with his son going into the future, not being able to raise him, all of that really spoke to me. And so the feelings, the deep, dark feelings that Cyclops often has in X-Men stories, this particular version of them, I adored. I also don't know that he did a huge amount this season either, except maybe that first episode. So I don't, I'm not going to veto this. I did have him significantly higher.
Like John, I did land Cyclops a bit higher up the list, but I will say I struggled to do so. And I was really putting him higher, I think a little bit more based on how he interacted with some other characters I felt more strongly about. So I think perhaps Chris is hitting me with some wisdom, and I'm not going to veto this choice. I think Cyclops certainly belongs on the list, and I love that reasoning.
It's because I respect him so much, John. I wanted more for him. I felt like this season all it was, son, no, son, don't.
Totally.
Please, son.
Great imitation. Absolutely.
Yeah, the Summers clan very sidelined this season for sure. All right, Dr. John, who are you gonna put forward for number 10?
All right. So again, this is kind of nice because I originally had this person at number 12 and I'm happy to have him higher. And it is Morph. Morph is a character who does not feature prominently in the long-standing arcs of both seasons, but in each season, they have a very emotional episode focused on them in some way, or they are the emotional core of an episode. So in the first season, their arc around Mr. Sinister and coming to terms with their past abuse, all of that was, I thought, fantastic. Also, Morph is a character who in the original series literally dies in episode 1 and comes back pretty angry towards the end of the series. And then they incorporated this character into the new series in a radically different way.
Yeah.
And in particular, one of my favorite moments at the end of season 1 in the messy interpersonal space was when they turned into Jean Grey to help Wolverine in this horrific moment where he'd lost his powers. Maybe he was going to die. Well, not his powers, but he'd lost his adamantium skeleton. Maybe he was going to die. And so Morph gives him this comfort by turning into Jean and saying, I love you. This thing Wolverine can't have, but also this thing Morph maybe can't have.
Yeah.
And Morph and Wolverine's friendship as the core of their story arcs, I'm here for it. I don't think Morph needs to be at the top of the list. Morph does not feature strongly in overarching storytelling, but in those episodes, I really enjoyed them.
Yeah, I had Morph anywhere from 6 to 10 throughout this process, so seeing him come in here at number 10 feels just right. He was one of the only characters I wrote a note down for on my list. He was someone I struggled with, right? Like, I was talking about that theme of like the power in the meaning of one mutant, one life, and my note here is that Morph maybe has like the absolute purest sense of a connection to that need for a connection. Right, there is this possibly romantic connection to Wolverine that you spoke to, this connection that they need. During his most, forward arc of the season, he's there once again fighting for that humanity inside of his friend. So, and then on top of that, he's a lot of great fun. He really helps modernize the show. He's really one of those key characters for bridging the gap between the actual 90s and this nostalgic looking back that we're doing today. Great pick.
Yeah, I'm with you. I had him I landed him at 8. I had initially placed them much higher. Also 8. I had them much higher because I just on vibes want them higher. I love this character. I love what Morph brings to your point, Randy, like a certain kind of energy, a certain modern energy, a ton of fun. They're well written. Their quips are well written. The dialogue is always pretty solid. And then they're a blast to watch in battle because they can bring any other, not just mutant, but any Marvel character to life for us. So, that created a lot of fun cameos throughout the 2 seasons. Ultimately, I'm comfortable with Morph landing as low as 10, though, because there was a lack of deep storytelling, even in their individual arcs, right? I'm okay with not everybody can contribute in a significant way to the overarching story that's happening, right? That's driving the season forward. But this season in particular, I was disappointed by the lack of any real emotional fallout after Wolverine kind of betrays their trust and lies to Morph and brings them on this mission just to get his adamantium back, right? Morph confronts that a little bit at the end of the episode, But by the end of the season, they're bosom buddies again, fighting side by side. There's no lasting follow-up. We never have to revisit that and understand how they healed. So I think...
Who cares about Sabretooth anyway?
You know, ultimately, I'm comfortable with them landing down at 10, despite really having a favor for this character.
Yeah. John's like, number 9, Sabretooth? No. No, great breakdown.
Any Creed makes this list, we've done wrong.
All right. Well, so far, no vetoes in play. We are going to use the snake format here, though. So, John, you get pick number 9 as well.
All right. So I think I have 10, 9, and 4, 3. So I'm not going to be back for a little while. So I have to make this one count. And given that we've been moving this list around, I am not 100% certain what the right choice is. I think I might put Polaris in. I think that might be my pick for number 9. There are a lot of characters who featured in both seasons that I could have put into a top 12. And when I say a lot, there are only maybe 18 to 20 characters worth considering for a top 12. So we'll see who winds up off the list. And maybe I'm seeing faces. It's possible Polaris is the first character that people did not have on their list. I just really liked her arc this season. One of my favorite episodes was the Jubilee episode, having to pit her between X Factor and X Force, this new dynamic, this new dialectic. We don't have a Professor X and a Magneto set of poles. We now have an X Factor, government stooges rounding mutants up versus X Force willing to do anything to stop apocalypse, to, protect mutant kind in a way. And it's different than Professor X and Magneto. It's a different set of two opposing ideas. So I loved all of that. And Polaris as this character who sees what's happening with X Factor and turns away from it and joins the X-Men, and then has this really pivotal, like, she is the pivotal moment of reflecting on Magneto's legacy, even though, again, Magneto dies and then sort of is forgotten after that episode that he dies, or where they reflect on it. But Polaris is key to that. And I just found her arc quite meaningful. And so she's only really featured in season 2. So maybe controversial to put her in number 9, but that's what I'm going to do.
Randy?
I'm just laughing because I was about to say, Chris.
You to it.
No, I had Polaris at 10. I think this is a great pick. I think she burst onto the scene. I realize we're trying to pick most powerful story beats here, and I think you covered that with Magneto. But she also brings the storytelling to life with just great energy. Loved her chemistry with Bishop throughout season 2. Loved the quipping. And yeah, like, not only did we get to see Jubilee kick some ass, but we also got to see her change a mind, and the mind of a very powerful mutant. And yeah, I'm excited for more storytelling with Polaris moving forward. Great pick.
Yeah, I'm not gonna veto this. I did not have her on my list, but I'll say it was an oversight, really, probably because I was considering season 1 and season 2, and she is, so stuck in season 2. But I agree with everything you guys said. I'm thrilled she made the list. That's definitely an oversight for me. Well done, sir.
Beautiful. All right, Chris, bring us to number 8.
Part of me is regretting putting the Summerses in here at all now, because like I don't want Jean or Nathan to end up too much higher than 8 or 7, but yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be the Summers guy so far tonight, and I'm going to slot Jean Grey in right here at the 8 slot for so many of the same reasons that I put Cyclops down at 11. These are extremely powerful and important characters in the overall X-Men lore. And Jean specifically was an integral part of the storytelling that was so successful in season 1 of the Summers family. I'm most interested in her unique angst, right? Real challenging to have your husband, be with another version of you, and, all that. So without even having to get into the Phoenix of it all, I'm always a big fan of Jean Grey and what she means to this universe, an original X-Men. That being said, there just isn't a ton beyond episode 1 of season 2 for Jean to do. She isn't particularly important or effective in any one battle sequence. I just didn't find Jean to be the most compelling story mutant of the seasons. So,
John Aspler, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I had her a little higher. I think I had her at number 6 originally, right behind Cyclops.
Right.
Jean is great, but she doesn't do a huge amount. I did, as you say, very interesting challenge to have to deal with the aftermath of your husband had a baby with your clone. And now you have your clone's memories. And what does that, all of that embodiment, all of that's interesting. I wish season 2 had done anything with it. So I'm happy to put her at number 8. That's just fine.
Yeah, I've been stalling for time because I'm debating whether or not I want to use my veto. If I were to use it, it would just be because of the strength of season 1, because I 1,000,000% agree with Chris's season 2 perspective. But I think I've decided not to exercise it. I do have Jean higher on my list,
I would be okay with you
but
retroactively vetoing this to remove Cyclops from 11, bump Jean down to 11, and have you repick 8, honestly, because that's I would feel wrong if Cyclops was on this list and not Jean Grey when it's all said and done. I
I'm
think that's the hole I've dug for us here.
oh no, I wouldn't be trying to get her off the list. I think I'm not going to exercise it. I'm just trying to figure out
Oh,
what
you
I'm
would
saving
maybe
it
move her
for.
up.
Yes, yeah. If I were
Oh,
to veto, it would be in hopes of moving her up,
I see.
not off the list. Um, I'm just looking at my list real quick. You know what? I am not going to veto. I'm not going to veto. You made a very compelling case, and I don't think I'm going to change the value I'm getting on my list too much. But yeah, great pick. I love G, and I hope we get more in season 3.
Mhm.
All right, I guess that brings us back to me. So we are at 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, huh?
Mhm.
All right. This is where I'm going to propose Nathan Summers Cable. Um there's a lot going on with this character. Um I really enjoyed him quite a bit in both season 1 and season 2. Yeah, the big bulky guy from the future trying to connect with his family. In this season, while he was not always necessarily on the side I was rooting for, it's hard to argue with his mission here, right? Like he is trying to stave off the apocalypse, and while I do believe in humanity and loving one person, I can also understand why this kid who's been burdened with destiny his entire life, living for this moment, feels like all these other people are letting emotion get in the way. He's had to harden himself for this moment. He really believes he's doing what's right, but he's ultimately a very redeemable character. He showed a tiny bit of willingness to be coached and pushed in a good direction by Jubilee. So I really enjoyed Cable. I actually had him lower on my list, but as I'm talking out loud, I'm happy to propose him here, but we'll see what you guys think.
Yeah, I initially had him lower because I had the whole Summers clan lower, but I think as the list has played out, this is the right spot for him. I think story-wise, he is just more impactful, even if I still feel even he's a little one note, like similar to his parents in terms of, "I must fulfill my destiny. I must," you don't we don't really get to enjoy him wrestling with what's underneath that so much and the
Mm,
burden of it. But ultimately, like, his story is hyper consequential to the driving narrative of this season and last, right? Like, this is what it was all pointing to. Um, so he has to make the list. I think this is a good spot for it.
And yeah, I had him. Honestly, I had him pretty high in my. I think he was number 4 for me originally. But hearing both of your cases and thinking about it more as we've been chatting, like I loved Cable in season 1. One of the most impactful moments for me was
mm,
in remember it in the episode of the genocide when he's in front of Madeline Pryor, his mother, and he still can't stop it. And he's clearly been trying. He's been traveling
yeah,
back through time. He's been trying and trying and trying, and he just can't do it. This is, a static moment or a moment in time that just can't be undone.
yeah.
All of that tragedy, and then, of course, his connection to Jean and Cyclops, all of that really spoke to me. In season 2, despite being a drive, like he's the person who's supposed to kill Apocalypse, he didn't have an arc. He just had a, I want to
Mm,
kill Apocalypse.
Yeah.
That was it. And like, again, nice to have him in opposition to X Factor to help Jubilee's arc, but that's not for Cable. That's for Jubilee. Why couldn't
sure.
both of them have been on an arc? So I loved him in season 1. That's probably what propelled it up to season 4. I'm always going to be a sucker for timey-wimey family shenanigans,
Yeah.
but yeah, just he didn't do much in season 2.
Yeah, and like if they had used Jean or Cyclops better in season 2, they could have easily catapulted past him on this list, but that's not what we got. For sure. All right. Oh, I've got to go again, huh?
Yeah, you do.
Whew.
You do.
And you're at the dead center here, buddy.
Yeah, we're so kind of like, are we ever going to use our vetoes? I don't know if we will, but we're good thinking folks. No one's picked something from outside of my top 12 yet, so I'm feeling great. So let's see. We'll see if this is exactly right for you guys or if it feels controversial. But this is where I'm going to propose Professor X.
It's exactly where I had him on my list.
I didn't have him on my list.
Ooh, all right. Before I even give my reason, John, can you explain why? Because you might get to why I had him this low even better through your explanation.
I'd be comfortable with a veto.
I'm trying to figure out if I want to save it for one of the top positions, but also I only have 3 and 4, and that can help shape 1 and 2. So like, I think that this might be the right time, but let me. I do want to hear.
Why don't you talk your way? All right, I'll talk through it. Right. My experience of Professor X as a kid in the 90s was just this guy with a great message, source of wisdom, source of power, leader for the group. If we're dealing with the deeper complexities of his character, it was mostly going over my head at the time. One thing I've loved about this series is it does not put Charles on quite so much of a pedestal. We see the ego at work. We see how dangerous we can be, how dangerous he can be to the people around him. More often than not, I'm still on his side. More often than not, I think he is acting in the best interest of what I want to see happen. But I think it really moved me to see how broken he was by the death of Magneto, right? Like something about keeping Magneto alive as his foil was something that he needed to keep propelling himself forward. And then to see that manifest, in very dark ways throughout the season, I found really interesting. But he didn't belong near the top of the list either because his message has become so complicated. The series is about what happens when that message is too simple. How do we work our way through it? So I feel like we need him here to tell the story. I feel like he has been at the center of a lot of my favorite moments, but he's not as essential or compelling as some other folks.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I don't know that I see much arc for him, despite all that he went through. And I was also really moved watching him wrestle with that loss of his best friend in the world. But then the story, maybe it's the flaw of the season we kind of keep coming back to. The story just needs to move on. And it's isolated to sort of that one episode. I like, Randy, that you imply that maybe there's some darker decisions that happen over the course of the rest of the season that are maybe informed by that loss. But we don't see Charles have to wrestle with any growth or change. I don't know that the way he sees himself or his philosophy is any different at the end of the season than it was at the beginning before he lost Magneto. And even when Apocalypse says it, the teacher still hasn't learned the lesson. It's like, yeah, I don't think there's nothing different about this showdown with Apocalypse than that first showdown with Apocalypse. There was no real change or growth. This stuff just sort of happens to him and he's involved in things, but yeah, he's not changed as a character. John?
Now I have a very difficult decision because both of you have made compelling arguments for why Professor Xavier should be on the list, period, and certainly this would be an appropriate place.
Yeah.
But
hey, you've got that veto, man.
You have that veto. So here's the thing. I completely agree with everything you've both said around, Randy talking about Professor X being on this pedestal as a kid, and in the original X-Men, 92 to 96, I suppose, he really was just sort of like this leader and this good guy. But season 1 of X-Men 97 complicates everything because so much of the season is about how Magneto might be right, at least a little bit. Maybe his methods are wrong. Certainly he goes toward the end of the season to the bad places, but Magneto is the compelling one of the two of them. And the other thing is that, and I love this, X-Men 97 goes out of its way to make it clear that Professor Xavier is an egomaniacal dick. He is self-centered. He has this beautiful vision, but we've already talked about it. Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler is the better version of that vision. Professor X, like you said, Chris, isn't on an arc. He still believes the specific way that he has believed. Like what I would have loved to have seen post Magneto's death is an arc where Professor Xavier moves himself toward where Magneto was, even though Magneto himself had moved himself toward Charles. The whole point of them coming together, we also talked about this, I think, in the last episode. There was a part of me that was like, so Magneto just believes the same thing Professor X believes now? That doesn't feel right. And I don't think that's what the show necessarily wanted to show us. And, they were on opposite sides of this, how do we deal with apocalypse in the past question. But I just think that the right way to deal with Magneto's death would have been for Charles to have been on an arc toward his friend. And I guess the last thing I'll say, and this is perhaps controversial, I was not particularly moved by the way he was dealing with his grief for his friend. And I think it's because I was just really mad that the show killed Magneto, understanding that I didn't think they were going to bring him. Like, I knew in that moment, I was like, he's gone for the season. And I don't know why I knew that. And then when the season bore itself out, I was like, yeah, that was the wrong storytelling choice. So I should have been moved. I wanted to be moved. I wasn't. And so because of all of that, I've talked myself into using my veto here.
Yes.
John,
I love it.
Did it. If you hadn't, I was ready to do it. I
love it.
I was going to do it myself. I realized I counted my characters. I said, you know what? I can take him off, and I still have 6 left in my list.
All right. I love the discussion we got here. Despite the fact that it was my pick, I'm happy you exercised a veto because I think we need some complication on this list. That being said, I'm going to move up my list. Let's see who I've got here next. All right, I'm going to go with Jubilee.
Yep.
I spoke a little bit to this earlier, so I won't go on too long here. But not only have they done like an incredible character resurrection here, Jubilee largely treated as a laughing stock, a naive sort of dumb kid in the original series. She still makes some rash decisions, but she really grows. She got the absolutely killer Veruca Salt Volcano Girls action sequence in here. Not only using her fireworks to the best of their ability, but also just like some sweet moves. And she is operating from a place of moral strength. She's not going to abandon anyone. She will put herself at risk for the greater good, and I love her for it. And I feel like I'm excited in future seasons to see if there's something about those fireworks that are particularly essential in a key moment. We got some hints of it in that video game episode in season 1. I think does she face off against the digital apocalypse there? I want to say I did not research this going in. It's just hitting me now. But yeah, I love her on this arc toward leadership, and I'm here for it. It's a blast, and I'm a Jubilee fan.
Hard agree. Yep, this is where I was hoping you would go. If you didn't, I was going to rank her next. Loved the way they used her throughout this season. Even though she had to be sort of piecemealed like everybody else, only getting her moments. Her character-centric episode was great. Seeing her in action. To your point, Randy, character resurrection, character glow up. Watching her powers be put to that kind of effective use was so great. And then they even put a nice little end cap in the finale for her, right? She goes right up against Havoc, and there's that, all right, Jubilee. He gives her a little nod, and we as the audience know that she's starting to earn the respect of her peers, and that's pretty cool.
Perfect.
Yeah,
stuff.
I couldn't agree more. I had her between 4 and 7 on a bunch of different versions of the list, so I'm happy with 6, recognizing that she might have been 5 if I hadn't vetoed Professor X, or 4 or 3. I don't know. It would have depended on what Chris would have done.
Sure.
So I maybe a little higher I would have put her, but I'm happy with her here. She is on an arc. She has been on an arc since season 1. That arc is consistent. She is growing. She was the audience surrogate character in the original X-Men in the 90s, where she was just this new 90s character brought into the team. She was meeting all the X-Men for the first time, and here she is. In season 1, she was guiding Sunspot as he sort of became a member of the X-Men, and in season 2, she's left alone in the present with no one but Forge and Bishop, who fuck off to the various times. And And then it's just her and Sunspot. And so she joins X-Force and she has these moral like she has some, if we're looking for some heft aside from Nightcrawler, I think Jubilee has it this season. Yeah. So I am super excited to see where it goes next season. Maybe next season she'll be higher on the list. I don't know.
What a glow up. Professor Xavier ousted to make room for Jubilee on this list. I think that is fantastic. All right. I think it's my turn now then. Guys, I think this is where I have to slot in Wolverine. I can't have him not on the list, right? He can't not be on the list. I think I've already touched on a few times tonight that there's a handful of characters whose arcs I think just kind of fizzle and don't really go where I want them to. We don't mine more depth out of the sort of the initial thesis statement that gets made, and there's really interesting thesis statement about Wolverine here when he goes and has to get his adamantium back. And he's willing to work with this old crew in order to do so, right? He's willing to go back to this place. We don't mine much more out of that, but it was still really compelling when we were in it. And all of his work in season 1, very, very compelling. Him alongside of Morph, extremely compelling. Wolverine has been an icon of the X-Men for decades now for a reason. I think it's extremely interesting to think that we're going to get a first Marvel Cinematic Universe X-Men film without Wolverine. I think it's extremely interesting, but the fact is he's been buoying this franchise since this cartoon. It's been decades that Wolverine is synonymous with the X-Men. When the average person thinks about this team of superheroes, they think of the guy with the claws in the yellow and the blue. All his various looks in this season were fantastic. When he's like full Savage Wolverine with like the head cap and the longer hair, the brown suit, fantastic. With the bone claws, with the adamantium claws, you can't go wrong. So I don't think it would be honest to put him higher than this, given, the superficial nature of some of the storytelling in season 2. He had to make the list.
Veto.
Wow. Moving him higher or off the list?
I'm going to say veto because Wolverine did not make my list. He's been too far from the center of the story for me. I still love the character.
Wow.
I hope he rises in the ranks for me next season. And at this point, I'm just kind of curious to see how the list plays out. I'm curious to see where everyone's going to go from here. I'm curious if John had him high as well, if I'm the outlier or if you're the outlier. I can't wait to find out. But I want to see how you pivot.
I only have 4 characters left. So now that means you think that there's somebody who belongs in this top 5 that I didn't have in my top 12.
Yeah.
Wow. I cannot wait to see where this goes.
This is very exciting. And honestly, I think I don't want to say I split the difference here. I think I'm with Randy, but all draft, Wolverine has been bumping up and up and up the list as all of the other positions. Like I had Wolverine at 11, I think.
Yeah.
And so Wolverine is like slotting up and up. And I appreciate that you're just like, we got to have Wolverine at some point. But I completely agree with Randy. Wolverine is nothing on this show. He does so little. Even Morph's arc. And that's why I was like, I'm going to put Morph in here at number 10 and not Wolverine. Because Morph has this like pretty meaningful arc. And yes, there are these moments. I did love the sort of he's dying in the Jean Grey of it all. He has some moments at the end of season 1 in particular. The X Mansion is destroyed and he and Nightcrawler are like, let's go, let's do it, let's save everyone. All of that was great. I just don't know why that character arc did not continue into season 2. The way that he felt defeated. Yeah. Yes, of course. The whole point is that he goes and he gets his adamantium back. But you know who reflects on that? Sabretooth, not Wolverine. He doesn't really talk about it. He maybe like gives a quip. We don't get even like a shot of him sort of like a little bit sad looking to the side. We don't get, maybe we do. It's possible I missed it. But just, I think Wolverine, so like Storm, like I was very happy that you put Storm at 12 because she doesn't do much this season despite how much I love Storm. I was like, I need someone to put Wolverine low. And with Wolverine at 5, I was like, I don't know, guys, but I'm happy because I think this makes sense. What a controversial list. Maybe no Professor X and maybe no Wolverine.
Yeah. So if I'm doing my math correct, John, you vetoed. Was it you or Chris that vetoed me? I can't even remember anymore.
John did.
I vetoed you.
So Chris, you're the only one with a veto remaining.
Yeah.
You could still get Wolverine in here and no one can stop you. So we'll see what happens. I'm just curious.
I wish...
I won't be mad if it happens. I'm just curious.
This is why blind rankings are so challenging because I'm going to lose sleep tonight over Cyclops in the 11th slot. Cyclops on this list at all and no Wolverine is tough. I don't know, guys. We'll see how this plays out.
Whew, should be fun. Well, that being said, for the moment, you've got to go in another direction with this particular pick.
I wish I had known that I needed to put Wolverine as low as 11 to get him on this list. And Cyclops there. I suppose this is where I'm going to go ahead and drop Gambit onto the list. Very compelling throughout season 1, of course, culminating in just a heartbreak for all of us and for Rogue alike. As I'm saying this, I realize I don't really have to sell you guys because neither of you have the power to veto me. So Gambit will be number 5 on this list. Again, I do wish that they had done more to seed his eventual turn into what we think is a horseman and actually is an embodiment of Apocalypse more throughout season 2. But we knew this is where we were going. We were all patiently waiting. Ultimately, the character design is quite cool. I love that we get to explore some of his Bayou background. And returning back to his old crew. I wish that there had been a bit more this season, but ultimately Gambit and Rogue are a potent storytelling point at the heart of these 2 seasons.
Yeah, phenomenal pick. Gambit was the character I was the most excited to see in season 1 when the show came back. He was as cool or cooler than ever. He gets this incredible death sequence. And while I could poke a few more holes in his plot line this season, when he comes back with that dark energy and his playing cards are now tarot cards, holy shit, that was cool. And I'm still feeling the love between Gambit and Rogue. Yeah, great stuff.
Yeah, this is fine. I had Gambit at number 4. Number 5 is just fine. I kind of like Jubilee. Gambit was very a product of the 90s, at least the Gambit in the TV show that we saw. You know, all these other characters have so much history over time and different costumes, and like Gambit is there. And I'm like, yeah, that guy is absolutely a character from a 90s cartoon. And he's so cool. Like, I know I said everyone wanted to play as Wolverine or Cyclops, but there was always a bunch of people who were like, actually, I'd like to be Gambit, please. And I mean, him being at the heart of the Genoshan massacre, you know, his death being so integral to that story and to Rogue's arc. His life, his return to life being so integral to the end of this season and to Rogue's arc. In some ways, it's like he's been fridged and unfridged for Rogue, which is an interesting trope reversal, but I don't feel like it was a fridging because it was such a meaningful moment of sacrifice in that first season. So I am here for Gambit in the 5th spot.
Chris, did you see or did you listen to the episode or see the clip from the Midnight Boys where Charles Holmes says that Gambit does not belong in the top 20 X-Men?
I don't recall that hot take from Charles particularly. There are so many hot takes from Charles.
I almost sent it to you, but I was like, you probably saw. Yeah.
That's based on their analysis of this season. I haven't listened to their
coverage. I only saw the clip online. He seemed to be leaning into like his comic background more so than just X-Men 97.
Yeah, but, he's a big comic head and an X-Men comic head specifically. So,
all right, Gambit. Yeah, I had him at 4 also, John. So 5 I can live with. All right, but now we're down to John Aspler at pick number 4.
And I am screwed. I'm fairly sure that the 2 of you will choose the 1 and 2 I'm thinking of. Maybe not in the order that I'm thinking of it, but that's just fine. I get to choose 3, and I know exactly who I'm putting there. That's no problem. And there's maybe a veto. We'll see. Maybe someone wants them higher, but that's just okay. This 4th position, I don't know what to do anymore. Because as I said, Wolverine is the character who has been bumped up and up and up the list as I have my, he was in my top 12. And so now he's sitting there at number 4 because I had to put Gambit in number 5. And I'm looking at my...
As is Professor X sitting there.
If you guys aren't
careful,
he's going to end up at number 1 if you're not careful.
Well, that's it. That's right. So Professor X, I have 17 characters that I was considering, and Professor X is number 17. So I don't think there's much risk of throwing Professor X up here. There's a number, and I don't know how much I should reveal at this point of like who I don't have on the list or whatever. So there are a number that I'm considering. And the issue is I don't think that I have anyone who I can justifiably put in number 4 in a meaningful way to, this is really tough. It's Sunspot. Wolverine. That's right. It's Sunspot.
You could make a case.
I think, and I'm not sure that this is the person I'm going to choose. I need to take a moment to think about it. But like, of all the people I don't have in my top 12, the one that I would be most happy putting on the list, although I wish that he was a lot lower, would be Beast. So I'm thinking of putting Beast here. My top 3 are, I think, an indisputable top 3, but we'll see how strongly Chris feels about getting Wolverine onto the list. So there's a part of me that strategically wants to say, let's put Wolverine here, even though we just had a whole debate about why he doesn't even deserve to be 5, and I'd be making him 4. That feels crazy, but maybe I'll do it. Beast is integral to a number of ways that the plot happens. He has the smarts and he could build timey-wimey things, kind of like Forge. He's a nice guy. I put him in my car last season because he's fun with all the quotes and the quips. He does have some pathos last season. Again, like Nightcrawler, he is a visibly non-human character, and he has this romance, and then his love interest, this reporter, is, turned into a Sentinel. And but how did she turn into a Sentinel, right? This whole thing that the people gave themselves over, even subconsciously, to this Sentinel program and let themselves be programmed in this way. So they didn't trust. She deep down inside her, at her core, does not trust mutants and does not trust Beast. That is brutal. So I'm thinking of putting Beast here, but I'm going to do something perhaps undrafty, and is just to say, do you want Beast here or do you want Wolverine here?
I think
I'll vote Professor X.
He ain't making it.
But I've got no veto, so it's up to you, man.
I think, John, I would veto Beast, because if we're saying Wolverine doesn't have an adequate story to justify him making the list at 5, what did Beast do all season? He was like mourning for Ship a couple of times. He's real into Ship. He loves
really into Ship.
Yeah. Oh, my stars and garters, John. What are you going to do?
I think I know what I'm going to do. I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to choose Beast.
Veto.
Cool. I'm going to choose Wolverine. I've been forced into this. I am required to put Wolverine on this list. We probably won't wind up with a Professor X on the list, but we aren't as controversial as we could have been. I'm glad that I tried to find a way to weasel out of choosing Wolverine, but I'm also not unhappy to have the character of Wolverine writ large at number 4 on this list.
Guys, I just saved the pod. If we put this list up on the internet with no Wolverine, we would never pod again.
That's right. All the people on the internet would just see the list and not listen to it and be like, what are you doing? You're all horrible.
This was all about the story beats, man.
Again, which is fine. I was willing to let Wolverine go. You guys made compelling cases, but I cannot let Beast stand in his stead.
Listen, Wolverine looms large. I hope they find a way to make better use of him in season 3. He's a guy I want to spend time with.
Yes.
So yeah,
absolutely.
It's fun to see him here, and this is part of the fun of this draft format. We're going to get some picks that we wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So this is great. I love it. And yeah, I had Professor X on my list, but I wasn't like super revved up about him. I thought he was really central to the storytelling. But I had him close to the bottom of my list at times. He moved a little bit further up. So I think this is just fun. I love the way this process is played out. All right, John, you sound confident about number 3. All the vetoes are off the board. So where are we going?
And what I'll say is that I'm confident that we all have the same top 3. I'm not confident we have them in the same order. And whoever I choose here will inform the top 2. And this is partly strategic because I know who I would choose in number 1. And I suspect you both do too, and we'll see where this goes. But I think that Nightcrawler has to go in the 3rd position, despite how much I loved him this season and how much I love him overall. I think that this season, so last season, he had a lot of, heft to the lines he said. His dialogue was really moving and meaningful. He had a number of story beats that were particularly beautiful with him and Rogue as his sister. This season especially, I don't think there's anything this season that's better than Nightcrawler. So if we were considering season 2 alone, Nightcrawler's number 1 for me. But I also think that in season 1, he remained more of a supporting character. He's very cool and he wields 3 swords, which is amazing. But season 2 is where he had his arc. And I think these 2 other characters that are probably your top 2 as well, or maybe in your top 3, are better arced, even better, even more wonderful than the wonderful Nightcrawler.
Yeah, with that finale, Nightcrawler flirted with a jump to number 2 on my list, but I have him right here at number 3 as well. And yeah, more of a supporting role in season 1, but he still livened up the storytelling so much. And he has my favorite quote from this series from season 1, which is, "There is no love without sin, for love is best measured in what we forgive." Holy shit, this is a great character.
Holy shit, wow.
If we were just saying favorite, I think we might all have him at number 1.
Yeah,
I think
but
so.
we're doing a slightly different exercise here right now. So I love this pick.
I really like this pick too. I think I would have maybe I wanted to see him land at 2, and the other person who I think will end up now at 2 at 3, but we're parsing hairs. 3 great characters left at the top here. I'm grateful that we're all aligned with who these top 3 should be. Yeah. Okay, so now it's my pick for number 2.
Yes, indeed.
It's the toughest pick of the draft.
It is.
I'm like sticking Randy with 1, obviously. Like, I'm now determining what the 1 pick is here. If we all sort of agree who these last 2
Or how
are.
spiteful do I feel about Professor X? All the vetoes are gone now.
My God.
Ooh, that would be horrific, but fair.
I think that almost helps me make my decision. Shall we speak openly about who the 2 characters left are that we're debating here? Right? 'Cause I'm debating. I would love your help. This is supposed to be collaborative.
I'll help you. I don't really feel spiteful about Professor X.
No, listen, I mean, part of you, so it's either Rogue or it's Magneto, right?
Absolutely.
And I think
100%.
my immediate instinct, if I was just like, hey, there's a clock ticking, you've got 5 seconds to register your answer, I'd probably put Rogue right here at number 2, so Magneto can land at 1. I'm wrestling though, because I think upon finishing season 2, it's actually Rogue who has more story that carries all the way through both seasons. Whereas Magneto really kind of culminates his arc in, episode 4 or something like that, and then the show barely revisits him, even though I think his legacy will always loom so large. Even when we go to the Savage Lands, those acolytes, they're still kind of under the banner of Magneto, right? They've got this new charismatic leader, but ultimately that's the philosophy that they're still pointing back to. So what do we do, guys? I mean, part of me says, Randy, your spitefulness makes it really easy to slot Rogue here at 2, so that then you can decide whether or not, which character belongs to the 1 spot. It's Magneto.
That would be perfect.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Rogue is number 2.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please go ahead. Yeah.
After you, John.
So Rogue was also my number 2, but it was also an extremely challenging decision. But I also think that of the 3 of us, it's clear that I think Magneto is the heart of this version of this show. And I shouldn't say the heart. I said Nightcrawler is the heart. And I mean that in terms of the team. But Magneto is like the reason season 1 was so good. And I think my justification here, because I totally agree with you that in terms of story beats, Rogue's character arc from season 1 to season 2 is extremely consistent. Builds, she is radicalized, she pulls back, like all these things happen. This season is all about her relationship with Remy.
She chucks Cap's shields.
Oh my God.
Mountaintops.
Know that. Yeah.
Fantastic moment. Like she is, and like Lenore's on, like, let's be clear, she's one of the only characters whose actor's name I don't even need to look up or think about. She was a Canadian provincial member of parliament.
Really?
She is, she was like for 15 years or something in Atlantic Canada. Like she is, and for the NDP, the New Democratic Party, our center left party, she is just like, all of it. National treasure / Rogue is wonderful. So it's tough, but it's kind of like I'm thinking how if X-Men 97 season 1 is an A++++, and if season 2 is like B+, A-, that A+++++++ is Magneto. It's not only Magneto, it's also Rogue, which is why she's here. So I'm happy with Rogue in number 2, but it's a tough choice because truly she is the heart. Everyone's the heart of the show, clearly to me. Sure. She is fantastic. Yes.
I mean, Nightcrawler finds her so essential to the story that he sacrificed himself to save her.
Right.
So there you go. She's going
Great
to
point.
lead to more growth. So you're really honoring Nightcrawler. Yeah. Whew. All right. But yeah, I don't think I have anything new to add about Rogue. I love that Captain America moment that I shouted out a moment ago. But yeah, Just such a fun character to listen to see her go back and forth, to connect with so many characters on so many deep levels. And for her to become this star child who was fully willing to give everything up. You know, we talked about the Christ imagery with Nightcrawler, but she also gets the sort of celestial X-Men stigmata going on when she steps through the portal. She's got blood on her face. Yeah. Rogue, number 2, great pick. Which brings us to me. Yeah, it was always going to be Magneto here for me, for all the reasons Dr. John articulated. Magneto, as someone who hasn't really read the comics, every version of film or television X-Men I have ever watched, Magneto has been what makes it function at its best. As much as I do love Professor X and I thought he belonged at this list, he did not belong anywhere near number 1. So it's very easy, and I do not feel any remorse in picking Magneto here. I love that even when he seems to be going in the right direction, you never know when he might relapse. You never quite understand how his viewpoint is changed when you see him having these backroom conversations with Apocalypse, trying to reshape him in this new image. You're trying to figure out if he stepped closer to Charles's Kumbaya image or if it's reawakening another path toward mutant supremacy for him. I love that that question's there and alive in us, and I think that question is there and alive in him at all times, which is the most human and compelling thing about him. And well, again, I haven't read a lot of comics. I know a thing or two about comic book logic. I've seen Gambit resurrected twice in like 3 episodes. I suspect we're not done with Magneto for good. And I'm excited to see when and how he returns, but I also want to chill with Polaris along the way. So, yeah, Magneto is the lifeblood of why this resurrection of the show works. And I think we got that part of this list right, no matter what.
I'm very happy with this. Again, I'm not sure. Like Randy, would you have put Rogue in number 1 if you had had the choice not forced upon you?
I had her at number 2. I had
Okay.
Nightcrawler 3, Rogue
Okay.
2, Magneto 1, but it was tough, like we all articulated, like, but there's so many different ways to spin it, but it's hard to argue with Magneto. Even when he's dead and off screen, he's driving the story
Mhm.
more than other characters. Like you mentioned the acolytes, right? Like even Rogue's willingness to sacrifice herself and Nightcrawler's willingness to step in, like, you know, it ties back to that moment where she was like, do I want this life and love and romance as Magneto's queen so I can actually experience physical touch? And when Gambit's struggling with that, Nightcrawler believes in them, and he gives Gambit that quote that I read earlier about love and sin and who's deserving of this, that, and the other thing. Um, Rogue realizes she has to return to Remy, and that's still so front of mind to her because of how Magneto drove the plot. Yeah, the more I talk, the more I talk myself into it.
Yeah, not a
Well,
ton to add.
yeah.
John, please. You're Mr. Magneto
No.
here.
I guess, yeah, I mean, so yeah, completely agreed. I'm happy to learn that we actually did ultimately have the same 3, 2, 1, and there was no anxiety over all of it. And it was the middle of the list that was the most challenging and fun to deal with our vetoes.
Mm.
But for me, Magneto, even thinking back to that season 1 episode on Genosha, Remy's sacrifice, Rogue's reaction, the melodrama and the interpersonal just components of all of that. For me, the most moving moment, despite how good those moments were, was Magneto failing to protect the Morlock children. And that was just, oh my God. And the way he flashes back, I think, to moments from the Holocaust, like all of that really just, I was bawling through most of the end of that episode. It was just so intense and touching. And the way that he is before that and the way that he is after that, and the Magneto was right of the season, whether or not he has very good points, and Professor X doesn't have good points, but maybe Professor X's methods are the right methods. All of that was just so compelling to me. And as we talked about last time, the urgency of the season story, which of course was designed and developed before anything that happened in the Middle East, to me, that question of never again for us versus never again for anyone, like all of that is so core to what made season 1 so special and why Magneto for me has to be number 1. But yeah, I mean, Rogue is also wonderful, and I would not have been unhappy with her at number 1.
Yeah. So guys, I think we did it. The one other little wrinkle I added to this game is we picked a dozen top X-Men. And I thought it might be fun if we all got to complete our Baker's dozen. I do think, if I'm being honest, I spoke at length as to why I think Professor X is still essential to this story. He's going to complete my Baker's dozen. John Aspler, it seems like Beast would be the one to complete your list, but is that how you feel when you look back at the totality of the list?
Yeah, I think so, because, and I may not have captured everyone, but, Bishop, Sunspot, Forge are 3 of the other characters.
Yep.
I feel pretty awful leaving them off the list, especially Bishop, given how much story he's in. But again, I don't know much about him as a person. I don't know who he is inside. I just know his power and the things he does for the plot. So I would love to see them there. But no, I think my honorable mention does have to be Beast. I just love his little literary quotes. He feels like he's genuinely still on a children's cartoon.
Beautiful. And then Chris, I don't think we know who you would pick to complete your Baker's dozen. Who would be number 13 for you?
This is where I'm going to drop Bishop onto my list. Yeah, just great to have him around in the mix. What an exciting. His powers are exciting. That banter with Polaris throughout the season was really fun and compelling. Watching him wrestle with his waning powers under the dampening effects there on the Savage Land. Yeah, plenty of fun. Definitely doesn't have a place in the top 12 from a story perspective, unfortunately, but quite enjoyed the voice performance, the character design, all that good stuff.
Yeah, unofficial honorable mentions. If I had gotten all of my top 12, my number 13 was Forge. It wasn't my favorite storyline, but I am somewhat interested in him, his backstory, his relationship with Storm. His power is really compelling to me as a nerd. That his ability there, and certainly the fact that we've got him to help us with time travel and stuff is great. The only other person who made the bottom of my list based on the strength of one episode this season was Colossus. So shout out to Colossus for a great episode. Any other honorable mentions before we go on?
Oh, I mean, now that you say it, maybe I need to put Colossus and not Beast, because I did talk about how his relationship with... I forgot about Colossus.
No, it's Beast. Listen to your heart.
In my
Listen
17.
to your heart.
Yeah. All right.
Colossus literally, almost just one episode, right? I think on the totality, to your point, season 1, there's plenty for Beast to do. You made the right call. Absolutely.
Yeah. And
all right. Happy with that.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, we've got to play our signature game before we go.
We got to do it. Before we do, though, I'm just going to run us through our top 12. So the podlings at home, if they weren't keeping track and writing it down, going from 12 to 1, these are the mutants that we believed had the strongest storytelling across 2 seasons of X-Men 97. Number 12, Storm. 11, Cyclops. 12, Morph. 9, Polaris. 8, Jean Grey, followed by her son Nathan Summers at 7. Jubilee comes in at 6. Gambit gets things really going at number 5, and now we're off to the races. Wolverine at number 4. Thank you, everybody. The veto system worked for me. Nightcrawler at 3, Rogue at 2, and Magneto number 1. This was a blast, guys. Thanks for building this list.
Yeah, I've been wanting to do this type of draft for a while, and I don't think it'll be our last one.
No. But before we go tonight, we do have, to your point, Randy, just a little bit more media-lit fun to be had. We cannot leave without adding something to the walls of our prop cave. Of course, this is an animated series, and as we do, we will pick one framed still image that we will extract from the season to own in our homes, signed by a member of the cast. So tell us, what would it be and why? John Aspler, turning to you first.
Knowing that you have your permanent prop cave that you have to populate later, I don't want to necessarily take what I think might be your top choices, but we'll see.
This is guest.
This is why guests go
table.
first.
You are our guest.
This is why guests go first. You saw the Odyssey. It's Zeus's Law.
Yes.
It's Zeus's Law.
That's a good point. Well, the good news is that I chose something regardless that I don't know that either of you will have chosen, but we'll see. I loved that second episode where Jubilee is stuck between X Factor and X Force.
Yeah.
And I love the moral choices she makes. And I love that fight scene with with Volcano Girls playing. It was just fantastic. And so I literally watched that like 5 or 6 times to try to find a still, because so much of Jubilee's powers are dynamic. And it's hard to be like, where am I going to find a still that reflects what I want? And so I couldn't pause fast enough to get this particular still. But there's this moment in the fight where she pauses. She's surrounded by soldiers and she sees a child with a collar on, an alien looking mutant child in the corner, alone and scared. And she does this thing where she curls into a ball, floats into the air, and just lets out her power. Kind of like you imagine the Phoenix does, a whole bunch of times. And so the shot that has her, you can clearly see all of her in her costume, but she's also surrounded by color and light. I love that moment.
John, I went through that exact same process and wrote down that exact same still from the fight on my list as well. Great pick.
I did steal it. I'm so sorry, but also, okay, that's fine.
No, you shouldn't be. It's just a great
image.
pick. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great pick, dude. Well done, Dr. John. All right, Randy, what about you? What will you go with then?
I assumed I'd go with some dark Gambit here, but I couldn't narrow it down to like one particular shot that I would really want hanging on my wall. So I'm going to go back to the moment that moved me and not John. There was this really well-framed shot after Charles goes through his morning. Bishop, who's been desperate to get back to the 90s, catches up with him. He's kind of leaning over this just emotionally broken Professor X. It's a long shot. They're in the desert, Bishop leaning over him in the dark, just before they zap out back to the 90s. I found that to be a really touching scene. Like, I would consider commissioning someone to paint that for me. Love that thing. That's going to be mine.
Absolutely love that. Yeah, really beautiful. If you do commission that, let me know. Love to see the finished product. Who's signing your picture? John, I don't think you told us who signed yours either. Is it the Jubilee voice actor?
I think it has to be the Jubilee. It'd be weird if I were like, let's get Magneto to do it. I think it's got to be Jubilee.
Yeah. Sir Ian McKellen.
Yeah.
What about you, Randy?
Yeah, I'm going to get the voice actors for Professor X and Bishop. Yeah.
Got to do it. Okay. For me, I didn't think anybody would take this, but I'm still glad it's here for me. I was a little torn because I almost went with Rogue in her new sort of celestial reviewed. It's really dope.
Yeah.
And the initial reveal, she steps out, is beautiful, but it's more of a pan to each cool feature of this look, the tiara and everything, rather than one single reveal. And ultimately, I was much more moved from a story perspective by Nightcrawler's time in that celestial sort of liminal space. I love the image. We're panned out. We're shooting the celestial head on. And so Nightcrawler's in front of the celestial. And Nightcrawler is so small. He's not quite a speck, but he looks so insignificant. And the point is that one life is not insignificant. Even in the grand machinations of a world making or breaking being like a celestial.
Yeah.
Nightcrawler's there because one life does matter, and one life can bring about so much life. And so I just love the way that image really communicates all of that. The scale of the celestial, the screen is almost not entirely washed out, but the colors that are there are beautiful and very 90s. They're in this kind of warm Miami color palette. And Nightcrawler's right there in front, looking so small but so definitive. So that's the one that I want. And of course, it's got to be Adrian Hu signing the frame.
That's the one I assumed. I think I assumed you would pick it, Chris, but I assumed one of you would. And actually, Rogue was the other one, but I didn't. I guess I didn't realize. I didn't try pausing to find the right shot. So fair that it's just a pan.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love the consideration, John, and how well you know us.
Yeah, you are the absolute best. And John, thank you so much for showing up to help us break down another season of X-Men 97. If I'm not mistaken, I think they've I know they greenlit season 3 a while ago, but didn't I read that they already greenlit season 4 before season 3 came out? I'm fairly certain I read that. So I hope we've got lots of chances to talk X-Men again in the future.
Yeah, it looks like it is in development with a 2028 release targeted. I don't know when it was announced, but that's super cool. I must have missed that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Super dope.
Absolutely.
Maybe even season 5, according to an announcement 2 weeks ago.
I'll take it, man.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. This was a blasty blast. Thank you both for joining me tonight. I really just love doing this. Dr. John, you are the consummate podling, one of my favorite pals and a favorite guest here. So thank you for joining us. I think we've put together something we can be proud of as we posted on the unforgiving internet. I think that we'll get some grace here. We shall see. Thank you as well to the podlings at home for listening along with us. We hope you had just as much fun as we did celebrating this really fantastic animated series. If you want more Media Lit, please go back through the back catalog. We're coming to the end of season 3 now, if you can believe it. But also, check us out online. Search Media Lit Podcast on your favorite search engine, and you will find us wherever we exist. We're on the socials like Instagram and Blue Sky. We are no longer on X, Randy? Fact check me there.
Our X account technically exists, but it's not being actively monitored. So find us elsewhere.
I've always called it Twitter anyways. So yeah, check us out on Instagram and Blue Sky. But
oh, gross. Did I call it X?
I did first. I led you into it, but it's really on me, and I apologize to everybody listening.
It's all good. But you know what's even better? We're not using it anymore.
At all.
So there you go.
Yeah, don't look for us there. Instagram, Blue Sky only. But more importantly, check out our website. Randy works really hard to curate this content cave for you all. Check out the show description. There in the show notes, you will find the link, and elsewhere on our socials as well. And as always, the inbox is open. We would love to hear from you. Please share your own personal thoughts on X-Men 97 and the Mutant ranking. If you think we missed somebody from our top 12, it was egregious, please hit us up at media.slash.lit@gmail.com. We would love the conversation.
All right. Chris, thank you so much for plugging the show. Dr. John, where can folks find you and your work out there on the internet?
Yeah, so this is coming at a great time because every time I'm here, I talk about how I have this blog on Substack called Serially Engaged, a blog about television. And I think almost the entire time over the last 2-3 years I've been jumping onto podcasts with you, I have not written a single thing that is not promoting an episode of this podcast, mostly because of new fatherhood, but even a little bit before that, I think. So I am really pleased to have just finished covering House of the Dragon Season 3, where I also popped over to the Pop Break for a couple of episodes to fill in for Randy, which was a lot of fun. And I'm hoping to continue that and keep up that writing, even just to get something out each week with Lanterns. I think that'll be really fun. I loved Green Lantern as a kid, and I haven't followed much since. And I think that is a great way to jump into this gritty noir detective superhero show. So you can find me there. And on all socials, I'm at Lost Cadence. Similarly, I don't use my Twitter account, which still exists, but you can find me on Blue Sky and Instagram.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, John. Usually I defer to Chris right here. And I'm just going to jump in real quick to say, please find my writing on the Pop Break as well. I covered a big old hunk of season 3 of House of the Dragon, but I also had some really fun family vacation plans going on. And the good doctor stepped in and just wrote some incredible reviews of a couple of episodes. And by the time this episode drops, you should also be able to find the season 3 sort of post-mortem that John and I composed together on the popbreak.com. So it's sort of a podcast in writing, if you will, a little Q&A back and forth on the season. So please catch that. Of course, you can also find myself and Chris on the Pop Break podcast feed over at Podalay, a Beck Hansen appreciation podcast. So hang out with us over there. And don't miss our companion podcast, Community 101, a community remedial rewatch podcast with our good friend Tyler McCarthy. Chris Ingersoll, where can the folks find you and your work?
Look for Media Lit. Find Media Lit, and you will also find me. But aside from this podcast, I'm also the grateful co-host of Batman by the Numbers. This year, we've been in our Dark Knight era, just going through one cinematic iteration of Batman at a time, taking pauses here and there to stop off in the comic book world to celebrate a little bit of Supergirl in the month of August. you have to look forward to a giant-sized edition of Batman by the Numbers as we dig into Lanterns, as well as Season 2 of The Caped Crusader, a wonderful animated series. If you're not watching it on Amazon Prime, I'm loath to give any business action to anything with the Amazon label, but that show is really good, ladies and gentlemen. Go check out The Caped Crusader and check out Batman by the Numbers for our conversation on it later this month. Aside from that, I'm also the co-host of Podolay with Randy Elaine and Justin Mancini over at thepopbreak.com. This is a Beck Hansen-centric podcast that I'm just so grateful to be a part of. So check us out once a month on thepopbreak.com.
All right. That does it for X-Men 97 Season 2. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.